Serious, what is the creepiest confession most disturbing that you have heard from an otherwise normal person? I used to help out at a nursing home. This old Russian lady would relate the same tale over and over. Her husband drank and hit her. It was sad for sure. But one day she leaned over and whispered he was arsehole drunk. So I pushed him downstairs. Dead. True Soviet. She is. A friend had told me for years about the dark secrets in his past that he can't tell anybody. Eventually he felt comfortable enough to confess. And he really was not exaggerating. When he was young he uphed his younger sister. The family knew about it and they all got counseling and stuff at the time. He and his sister are friends now. But FCK. I had a friend confess that every time he stayed at my apartment, which was frequently, because we lived in different countries. Sometimes he would stay for a month plus at a time. He watched me sleep. I woke with him staring at me. He was literally inches away from my face just staring and I freaked out. He broke down and confessed. My husband was asleep next to me. That was the most creepy for sure. It also ended our friendship. In HS we were hanging out with this kid who was a grade lower than us and he started talking about how he buried the cat up to its head and then ran it over with a lawnmower. I didn't believe that he actually did that. The cat would probably tear the shit out of you, but it was disturbing to think that this was the information he decided to share to impress us. That my great uncle likes kids. It suddenly made a whole lot more sense that none of his adult daughters were ever married, had a serious LTR and are overweight with self-esteem issues. Every other aspect of his life is perfectly normal and I would have never expected that from him. There was a court case before I was born that was dismissed. My mother never even let me meet him until early this year. Because she didn't want to take the chance that he might act indecently towards me. Typo. On my way home from counseling, an elderly lady talked to me about her experience as a nurse in a mental institution. Some of the things she said were horrifying and sad. I think she was glad to get it off her chest. This included patients with schizophrenia who were abandoned by families. People admitted into the wards because of their homosexuality, with some very upsetting consequences, and more. Most involved patients taking their own lives. I sat there and listened. Though I'm not sure how much of it actually sunk in until I got home. A colleague confessed that she had sex with her brother throughout her childhood and early adolescence. She also told me she despises her brother's wife because she is in love with her brother and is insanely jealous of his life and kids. She has never had a relationship and fears she will never be married or have kids of her own. She doesn't sound very normal. There was this girl in my school who I think was a selective mute. She only talked to a few people. And I was one of them. Then she told me that I'd never be on her hit list. Yep. Always be nice to the quiet ones. They're nice and interesting as hell most of the time. And they won't kill you if they do snap. It's one of the cardinal rules of high school. On that note, always tell the depressed kid see you tomorrow instead of goodbye. I killed my best friend by accident while high on cocaine. 1 year ago. She was also my GF. Had a good friend of mine tell his crush at a party that he just wanted to cut her ears off and take them with him. He's a great guy. Married. And just had his first child with someone completely different. That girl was gone. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right, here I am. Most disturbing was when a friend confided in me that she had been sexually assaulted. It was quite disturbing because I used to think of sexual violence as an abstract concept that wasn't pervasive enough to affect my world. But it is. Disabused me of many inaccurate notions. That they have had cannibalistic thoughts in the past. When I was pregnant, some crunchy types asked me if I was planning to eat my placenta. I said no. To that unambiguous answer I met with "you should. It's natural and healthy. You will need the nutrition" and other such statements. I respond, I am not a cannibal. I do not eat human flesh. I wish I had a camera to capture the facial expression of a person who suddenly realizes that they have committed an act of cannibalism and encourages others to do the same. Told me that he used to go on forums and boards dedicated to people struggle with depression. And he'd PM the ones who were feeling suicidal with instructions on how to go about killing themselves. And give encouragement to do so. I've never lost so much respect for a person within the duration of a couple minutes. I gave 4 virgins chlamydia. Instantly thought less of this person. Edit. My friend who is this grade A student goes over to all these different girls' houses. Not to have sex or anything. Just to steal their dirty underwear while they're in the bathroom or they're elsewhere. He has a full box, which includes a pair of my sister's underwear which he admitted to stealing, in his pantry. I'm surprised no one has noticed in his house. But to this day, I'm the only one who knows. Well, now the whole of Reddit knows. Ha FCKU. Scott, you panty stealing FCK. When I was in 4th grade, one of my friends broke down in tears and told me that he had murdered someone. And that's why he moved away from CA. As a very gullible 9-year-old, I walked around with the burden of knowing a murderer for about a week. A friend of mine confessed that he was molested as a child. His parents are part of this cult that believes their leader can talk to God. The cult is decent sized. There are about a few hundred members when I researched it. My friend said that there was a man from the church who would offer to babysit him and his little brother. The babysitter would offer them money to take off their clothes, get their pictures taken and do us all favors. The church gathers a block from my house. I thought this building was a temple or a mosque, but in reality it's some sort of cult compound. Some of the members are actually part of the local police too. If I wasn't always drunk I would probably be scared. A really shy and timid friend told me her idea of a perfect date was F-king while watching the movie Antichrist. I was having a few beers with another, much older, teacher. He told me he used to sleep with 13-year-olds when he was 30 and living in his hometown. I had an art teacher in about 3rd grade who was really cool, or at least I thought so. At some point, she came up to me and said, "I love your red hair. I just want to chop it all off when you're asleep and glue it to my head." It's one of my sharpest childhood memories because I remember going afterward. "Oh, thanks," and laughing really nervously. I once listened to an oddly detailed murder plan by a friend. On a bus no less. So many people plotting murders. My friend said he was left alone with the body of his dead cousin during the funeral. Everyone got personal time to say goodbye or whatever, and he had sex with it. He cried when he told us. I have no other information. An 18-year-old I had just met got crazy drunk. On the verge of alcohol poisoning. And said he was worried about a child PRN case he was caught up in. I didn't want to know anymore and made sure he didn't die. Then got the FCK out. Are you sure he first one's real? How could you violate a corpse and set everything back the way it was without anyone knowing? I feel like the noise factor would also come into play. Best friend told me he had been molested as a child. That they like the taste of petrol. Smell. Yes. Taste. WTF. Someone close to me killed her stepdad's dog by feeding it Tylenol PM in peanut butter because it annoyed her. She would rub meat on her areas so her dog would lick her. She was 12. Was sitting in a room full of people getting high when one of them starts describing a love affair he had on his uncle's farm. TL. Doctor, he F-ked a horse. My ex told me he killed a horse. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't dead or anything. He just saw a horse and decided I should kill this horse. He gutted it and everything and he liked it. A guy I was dating in high school told me that he had sex with his younger, 7th grade. Maybe, brother because he was just so addicted to masturbation and he could never be the parent to a son and daughter because his son would certainly pay the daughter. It took years for me to completely realize the level of F-ked up that was. I'm a functioning schizophrenic. Followed by, I'll f***ing kill you. Not to me, but to someone else. Took a humanities course where the teacher had put a big emphasis on using it as a therapy session. People would share stories about a relative getting cancer or the death of somebody, etc. I was talking with a female friend acquaintance, A, whom I knew from that class, and the subject turned to a meeting a few days prior where a few stories about rape and molestation were shared. She told me that she considered reporting her father for molestation when she was a teen and her parents were going through a divorce. I confided that her father never actually laid a finger on her and A's mother was already riding roughshod over him because the family business was registered in her name for tax reasons. But the divorce was dragging on. I was firmly on her mother's side and thought that reporting him would put a quick end to the proceedings. As a male, that terrified me, and in the context of the legitimate victims that shared their stories a few days prior, disgusted me. I stopped meeting her outside of that specific class. Some idiot admitted to me he once hit a homeless person with his truck door as he was driving by. F***ing loser. My mum told me she was molested repeatedly by her aunt's husband for about 8 years. There's also a story behind why she kind of got forced to tell me. A pretty f***ed up story. That sounds terrible. But if it's not intruding, I'd like to know if the circumstances. Friend of mine once told me he called a girl he met on Tinder while he was masturbating just so he could come while hearing her talk. He was able to keep an awkward conversation going long enough. Hadn't ever called her before. Only texted her to finish, and right before he came he told her calmly what he was doing. This is why I hate online dating. I need a throwaway for this because it's really stupid. Before reading, realize I was a stupid teen. In 2009, one of my closest friends made a confession I found disturbing back then. He told me that he was gay and my reaction was completely wrong. What I did was kicking him in the face and telling him he should cure from his disease or I would never want to see you again, and I never did. Sadly, 2 months after this happened he committed suicide. I'm not even 100% sure this was because of me, but no one else knew that he was gay or fake. I didn't even attend his funeral because then I had no idea it could be because of me. I realized that later and I still mourn him. I'm so sorry for this, but I never told this to one of his friends or family. I'm donating the Human Rights Campaign and Suicide Prevention Foundations today, and I think this is the best I can do. Something like this is something I wish never happens again. Dude. I should probably wind up in this thread somewhere. My teacher was showing the beginning footage of the leaked Snowden video where a US drone bombs Iraqi civilians. I don't know what the FCK was going through my mind when I said fast forward to the good part. I meant it as a joke, but the room was dead f***ing silent. Oh god, the cringe.